Hey there, Knicks fans and disappointed Americans. How you doing? It's your boy Jon GMAC with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Jeremy Cohen is off for another week. We'll be back together soon. Training camp or media day, I should say, is 3 weeks from today, so cause for celebration. So we'll get back into our normal swing of things before you know it. As fall approaches and NBA is around the corner. But for now, I am joined by the one and only GMAC, Andrew Claudio. Hello, sir. How are you doing on this fine Sunday morning, which you slept late? Sounds lovely.
Hold on. That makes me sound lazy. That makes me sound like a bum.
That's you're projecting right now.
No, you're like you slept, like you overslept. You slept in on Sunday.
I said you slept late.
I slept till a normal hour for someone that doesn't have kids. Okay, that's what I did on a Sunday because I have an afternoon of uninterrupted football watching that I'm very thankful for and I'm very grateful for. And after spending my afternoon with the Macries and their beautiful family yesterday, I recognize the privilege it is to be able to spend an afternoon uninterrupted watching football. So
I will just say, long before I had kids, when my favorite day of the week was, like it is for you now and many Americans cross country, Sunday for football. And in particular, it was fun for me because I used to bartend football Sundays for, I think 7 years. I had that gig, and I would treat those days as very special. There were many years where after, whether it was DJing or bartending or managing the night before and getting to bed, around sunup, my personage would be behind the bar making my Bloody Mary mix before 10 a.m. on Sundays. So, and that was before I had kids. So I just want that noted for the record.
It is officially noted for the record. You
don't have to make Bloody Mary mix today. So
I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just I have wings coming in the afternoon at a certain point.
You're not making your own wings?
I don't. Yeah, I'm bad at making wings. Rosina would.
Oh, that's right.
I don't cook. I barely cook like mac and cheese. Like the microwave is my stove. So
there's something particularly sad. I don't get a lot of satisfaction out of making my own food. I mean, cooking is like satisfying to a certain extent, but like particular satisfaction for whatever reason I don't get out of most foods. Making wings, when I make a really good wing, I feel really proud of myself. So I don't know. It's one of the and it's like a hard thing to make, but I guess when you've eaten wings for your whole life, you know what you want in a good wing, and you could then do that. Then again, you really need like either a smoker or a grill to really get the wing get that baked in sauce flavor. That's the key for me, at least. I don't know about you.
I now this is turning into an episode of Hot Ones where just the craving for wings is just slowly building throughout the conversation.
Man, I'd love to have some wings today. I did not, unlike many sporting events that I've enjoyed wings during. I was not enjoying wings at 6 o'clock this morning.
God bless you, man. I woke up and saw the reaction to the U.S.-Canada game, and it was like, oh, wow, RJ, and
big shot for RJ, the dagger, as it were.
The dagger, yes. Yeah. Was that what your tweet in all caps, wow, was?
Oh, my God. This is going to be great. Do you not know what?
I have no idea what your wow was in reference to.
Okay.
What happened?
So for anybody like Andrew, who may have no idea what transpired in this game, we'll go back and this is going to be a FIBA episode. And so we're going to go back and talk about how the U.S. and Canada ended up in this game to begin with and all the implications and whatnot for USA basketball. But so bronze medal game, Team Canada, Team USA, because both teams lost on Friday in upsets. Canada got out to a blazing hot start in this game, hit 6 3-pointers in the first quarter. They were up by, I think, as many as 12 or 13 points, something like that, late in the first. U.S. bench brought them back. Canada's put their main guys back in. RJ had a great plus-minus in this game because he was not on the court when the U.S. bench brought them back in the game there in the second quarter. Canada retook a somewhat commanding lead. I think they were up by 10 midway through the fourth. U.S. fought back again, but SGA hit a nice mid-range shot. Anthony Edwards could not answer. Dylan Brooks fouled, sank to both free throws. 4-point game, under 10 seconds to go. Mikal Bridges beats out, sadly, RJ Barrett for an offensive rebound off of a Austin Reeves miss, and RJ fouls Mikal Bridges, so sends him to the line, down 4 with 4 seconds to go. Mikal makes the first, and then Kerr put in Bobby Portis and the great future Hall of Fame Pantheon level player Walker Kessler, who obviously, if he had played 30 minutes a night in this tournament, the U.S. would have won every game by 60 or 70 points, and put them in for offensive rebounding purposes. Neither of them got the rebound because it was the missed free throw, the intentionally missed free throw was kind of it was a far carom. Mikal Bridges caught his own missed rebound, scurried to the corner, and hit a corner three with like 0.5 seconds or something remaining, ties the game to send it to overtime.
So I'm staring at the play now. So
it was one in the moment. It was one of the most insane things you'd ever see.
Okay, yeah, and Josh Hart's celebrating. Okay. Oh, this looks like fun.
So,
okay.
U.S. at that point.
So this sent it to overtime.
So U.S. at that point had all the momentum, and they had all that momentum for about 90 seconds because when the overtime started, immediately SGA went to work. I got to give some props to Benji Ritholtz. I asked openly, I think before the semifinals, either before the quarterfinals or before the semifinals, if you could have one player for the rest of the tournament, who would it be? And he was like, oh, SGA easily. And I was like, I'm going with Anthony Edwards. I feel like big moment down the stretch of a game. He's the guy I want with the ball in his hands. Not so, because Edwards could not match. He had some chances to hit some shots in fourth quarter, overtime. I mean, he hit a few, but like this, I mean, SGA just took the game over. Dylan Brooks hit a couple of key free throws, and then it led to the RJ Barrett dagger. Not that was the only important shot RJ hit. He had a couple of moments there in the fourth quarter, made a couple nice baskets. He also had some turnovers in the fourth quarter. The U.S. intentionally switched off of him to give him a wide open look for three as they were trying to make a late comeback. So it was like basically their game plan, like let RJ shoot it. Missed the three, kind of enabled the U.S. to get a little closer there. But RJ played really well. I think he finished with 23 points. Same as he did on Friday. He was the leading scorer for Team Canada in Friday's loss to Serbia. Not a great game. Had a couple of really nice moments again in the fourth quarter. But overall, it capped a really nice tournament for RJ. And I'll say Team Canada. I mean, look, are they disappointed in the bronze? Probably a little bit. I'm sure they thought they could win gold, or maybe even that worst silver. But they seem pretty excited to medal. It's the first medal I believe they've gotten in international play in Windhorst tweeted out before 87 years. Yeah, it's been a long time since Canada has medaled, and Dylan Brooks obviously Dylan Brooks and SGA were the stars of the bronze medal game. Dylan Brooks finished with either 39 or 41. I mean, he was.
39. Yeah, I'm staring at the box score now. 39. And you're right about what Windhorst tweeted out. 87 years since.
87 years, right?
Canada's last basketball medal.
So after, I mean, SGA was the star. SGA was the best player in this tournament. And him being on Canada next summer will, I think, give them a chance to win gold. But, you probably give the nod to Dylan Brooks as the second best player on Team Canada. Probably. He was, like RJ, he was inconsistent. He had some not so great games early on, but RJ was right there. At worst, he was Team Canada's third best player. And I think there's an argument he was second on balance. I think it's a big tournament for him. A big tournament for Canada, but a big tournament for RJ. It's a really nice moment for him. So before we get into some of the negative stuff, a nice positive. What does it mean for the Knicks coming up this season? I don't know. To me, again, to echo Benji, he's been saying it for a few weeks. What RJ did in the playoffs was the big thing. So it can't hurt.
It can't hurt. And I personally didn't get too invested in this tournament. I don't think I've ever been that invested in specifically the FIBA World Cup. And this wasn't the first one. I think the Knicks went through such a long stretch of not having a player in the FIBA World Cup. So I went and enjoyed my summer. When it came to, plus we weren't doing coverage of the Knicks. We weren't doing I wasn't invested in a way that I might have to pay attention to it. I think FIBA is whatever you want it to be. If Absolutely. You want to use it as validation that RJ's turned a corner, great. If you want to use it as more signs that he's still got some consistency issues, that's your prerogative too. If you want to use it as we kind of transition into the Team USA side of this as validation for Jalen Brunson's status, that he was named team captain unofficially by his teammates and that crew, then that's fine. If you want to use it as a way to further an agenda that he's got defensive issues and the times that he was benched in crunch time for Halliburton, then that's your prerogative too. If you want to use this to overreact to Josh Hart being in the starting five and being see how impactful and valuable he is, there you go.
Closing five too. Closing five too.
Yeah, look how valuable Josh Hart, in the opinion of Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra, was the best person to start games, best person to close games. You can further that agenda. If you want to use it as a way to, criticize coaching and say Walker Kessler should have been playing more minutes, and that's the reason why Team USA didn't medal in this tournament. That's whatever you want it to be. FIBA can be that. This is an exhibition tournament that these players we didn't send US didn't send their best 12, and
let's stop
that. What Team USA will look like next summer. No,
but let's pick up. So a couple things. Just to finish the close the loop on RJ, I do think this was a nice reminder that and we're going to get more into this, but as certain members of Team USA were getting exploited defensively. Now, granted, FIBA is a different sort of game than the NBA, where post play has kind of gone the way of the dinosaur. But as Jalen Brunson and Austin Reeves and occasionally Tyrese Halliburton were just getting bodied, or even bigger McCall, even sometimes on switches would get bodied, and other guys too. Everybody. You can't really do that with RJ Barrett. We always call for him to be more physical as a defender, be more physical on the boards, this and that, but I think the reason why there has always been this anticipation of this eventual, or at the very least, you're getting a solid two-way wing if you could put it all together, is because he's the size that he is. I'm you're never going to be able to body that dude. He is still an impediment as long as he's moving pretty well and all that. So that's a positive, and that came into play, in this tournament for Canada. As they, I think they defended pretty well, and then on offense, just he's he will probably always have in the NBA. He had opportunities to hit open threes, and he made enough of them in this tournament, I think, to make him take those, make the act of him taking those threes to justify that. And like I said it with CP the other night, if he can make 38% of his threes moving forward in the NBA, I mean, sign me up for that any day of the week. So now you nailed it, obviously. And a few people have echoed this sentiment, which is no, the Team US or the USA basketball clearly did not treat this as a tournament that it had to win. Because if it treated it that way, then this would not have been the team that showed up. I think the more interesting question is whether this team like the last FIBA team, like a lot of U.S. teams at this point, you can say it's been a lot over the last 20 years that have not medaled at FIBA, or the one that didn't medal, get anything in the Olympics. I think you could say about all of these teams, the talent. I don't know how you can now watch 20 years of international play where, when the U.S. sends anything other than its A team, like at this point that we're losing more than we're winning, and not feel like the rest of the world has caught up. And the other side of the argument for that is that, like, well, no, it's roster construction, it's coaching, it's the players didn't play very well, it's X, Y, Z. Like, before the talent caught up, none of those things mattered because the talent was so far superior. And now that the talent has caught up, it's like, yes, Team USA's B, or if you want to call this the C team, I think it was more like a B- team, maybe. Like, they needed to play really, really well, execute as well as possible, make every right coaching move, perfect roster. Like, that didn't used to be the case. It is now because the rest of the world is better. It's obvious. And no one's saying there weren't mistakes made. No one's saying the team played as well as they could play. But, like, I'll maintain even after this game. I'll say what I said after Friday. I think Team USA played okay. Like, they didn't come out here and fall flat on their faces. Like, guys played pretty well. Like, who really disappointed? Jaren Jackson Jr., absolutely a disappointment. And the fact that they oftentimes had two guys on the floor that opposing teams could exploit defensively, that was an issue as well. Okay, how are you going to solve that? Go find me the plethora of two-way perimeter players who are both really good on offense and not exploitable on defense that Team USA could have put onto this roster out of the talent pool that they were picking from for this tournament. Not there. Those players don't really exist. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., it's like, yeah, of course they would have been better off with Bam or Draymond, but, like, those guys weren't coming. Jaren Jackson Jr. was probably the best available option, and guess what? He played to the level that he's played over the past several years in Memphis. Had some really nice moments. Had some moments where it's like, man, really wish Jaren Jackson Jr. could put it all together. These guys played to expectations, and it fell short because it's not the A team. Now, last thing I'll say, I'll kick it back to you. I think we're at a very fascinating point, and this is where some people were getting on me after my comments on Friday. I don't think Team US can roll out its A team and just, we're going to win. Like, we're recording this at 10 o'clock. The gold medal game is going on right now. I should probably have checked the score on that.
Germany's winning by 12 in the third quarter.
Okay, so maybe Serbia doesn't win. Whether they do or don't, Serbia made it to the gold medal game of this tournament, and they did it with an awfully impressive performance against Team Canada. That team is going to add the best player in the world between now and next summer in Paris. And I don't know enough about Serbian basketball to know maybe there's another reinforcement or two that they're going to have as well. But, like, you're telling me that Nikola Jokic added to this group can't win the gold medal in Paris? I got news for you. You're going to tell me that Team Canada, if they add Andrew Wiggins and Jamal Murray, talk about how about 6-man Jamal Murray? How's that sound? Oh boy, he's good enough to be the second best player on an NBA champion. I'm pretty sure he's good enough to be a 6-man in the Olympic play. You're telling me they couldn't beat US's A team on any given night? Like, I'm sorry, but, like, the notion that, and we're going to go through the roster that we ideally would want to put together before next summer. But if you're telling me, like, US's A team is just going to walk into the Olympics and, like, they're definitely 100%. No, they're going to need to play their best ball, be coached really well, and, like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of thought put into the roster. That's where I stand.
I do think that it should be emphasized. This wasn't their, like even more so than you're saying that this wasn't their A team. Like, I also think that I do agree with the point that the talent pool has caught up, but I feel like this has been true for, like, 04 was the Olympics that they finished bronze, and
that was a disastrous.
The Larry Brown coach team.
Yeah, so, and can I just add? Sorry, in addition to the talent catch, I got one last thing because this is an important point.
Mm-hmm.
The game has changed with the advent of the 3-point shot. Right. And the fact that everybody around the world can hit threes. Like, if you have one really gravitationally important player on offense, and like in a tournament like this, a Dennis Schroeder or a Bogdan Bogdanovic, or back in the day, a Manu Ginobili, like just someone who's capable of generating offense on their own, and you surround that person with a bunch of shooters and maybe a big guy or two that are going to give U.S. problems, like, it's not even about the talent having caught up. It's about just around the world, basketball has caught up. If you're shooting it well, you could win any game on any given night against pretty much any opponent. If you have that one initiator to really stir the drink. And hell, Lithuania, when they beat the U.S., they didn't even need that big time initiator. I mean, Rokas had a nice start to the game, but they didn't have anybody who was killed. Like, all due respect to Mindaugas Kuzminskas, he wasn't. It was the shooting and the size.
That's what you're hitting on, is that it's honestly less about roster construction. It's play style. Like, I don't want to say it's become baseball
and skill,
but everybody's playing. But the skill is the play style that everybody's shooting. Like the USA's 2 losses, they shot 37% for 3.
3 losses.
They lost to
Lithuania, and then they lost the last 2. Yeah.
Okay, but the 2 before this, when they were still in contention for gold, they lost. They shot 37% from 3, 43% from 3, and then today they shot. I'm staring at it. 37% from 3. Those are respectable numbers, but Lithuania hit 56% of their threes in that game, and then the U.S. Against Germany hit over 40%, and then Canada today hit 45% of their threes. So that ability to get hot from 3 is something that can happen.
Look, it's normal. It's not that it can happen, but this does happen often.
This is the league today too, so I'm not
exactly. Yes,
I don't push back on. I don't know if you wanted a debate on that. I don't push back on the idea that the talent has caught up. I do think USA's A team will be favored going into.
Of course, they'll be favored as
Olympics
they should
next year. And I also we do this sometimes with the NBA during the regular season, where yes, I would probably pick Serbia in a 1-game sample against US's A team, because who has the best player on the floor? That's usually where I lean with these games. Who has the best player on the floor? Why am I not really that shocked that Canada beat the US today? I think SGA is better than Anthony Edwards. So they had the best player on the floor. Now, there's something to be said, like you said, about the roster construction, and that a Drew Holiday or Draymond wasn't out there or able to be a defensive anchor like they depended on Jaren Jackson Jr. to be in this tournament. And
I think
maybe that leads to more thoughts going into next summer.
I think you phrased it very well there, that they really did depend on Jaren Jackson Jr. maybe as the biggest cog of this team, because going in, there was a lot of questions about is it going to be Jalen Brunson who's going to be initiating the offense? Is it Anthony Edwards? Is it going to be Brandon Ingram? Is it going to Tyrese Halliburton? They had a lot of guys who you could make arguments for. They only had one guy as the defensive linchpin who was going to tie this all together if these smaller perimeter defenders struggled, and he did not do that. And I'm not trying to put this all on Jaren Jackson Jr. because the brunt of the at least equal blame should go on these perimeter defenders who are having problems, including Jalen Brunson. And it was a big issue. Now, he wasn't the only one, but he was part of the problem. And it leads to the discussion of, okay, so then what is it about really in terms of constructing a better roster? It's about getting more two-way players, like players who are elite at whether it's shot creation or one of the lower offensive skills, maybe just shooting, but who are not going to be exploitable on the other end. Because that's the one thing you say about Canada. Who were you going at? You weren't going at Dylan Brooks. They weren't you can't exploit RJ Barrett in the way that they were exploiting, Reeves and Brunson, et cetera, et cetera. Dort's a good defender. SGA could hold his own. All these guys could hold their own. So I don't know. I'm trying to think if anything else before we go into the roster construction thing. Do we need to say anything about Team USA's loss on Friday against Germany. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. Like size, they couldn't deal with the German size, and Germany shot it pretty well.
Germany got hot from three. This again to the perimeter defense issue that seemed to plague Team USA throughout the tournament.
Because when you're helping, left and right, you're gonna allow open threes. Last thing before we move on to constructing the next roster, the coach, the amount of digital ink, but still ink, that will be spilt criticizing a coaching staff that is comprised of, I think when most NBA fans of other teams are like, I wish Coach X coached my team, who are the top three people most of them mention? Eric Spoelstra, Steve Kerr, Ty Lue. Who are the three coaches on Team USA?
Like I said, FIBA can be whatever you want it to be. So whenever Tibbs gets criticized, you just have to be like, well, Steve Kerr lost to Lithuania over the summer. So apparently, Tibbs did lose to Lithuania over the summer. So you have that wild card to pull.
No, he didn't.
Anytime you want.
I will not be pulling that card. But
look, this tournament works as an eye-opening, whatever you want it to be for Team USA going into Olympic selection next summer.
But did it really open eyes? Did we really? Was this the thing?
Were we shocked that Team USA didn't medal in this tournament?
I don't know that I'd say shocked. Am I surprised that they couldn't? Like, I'm not shocked they didn't get the gold or the silver, but the notion that they lost consecutive medal games was, I mean, I guess you figure one of those two, they're going to figure out a way to win.
Right. So as a result, we're allowed to be like shocked in that sense, but then recognize that, they didn't medal in this tournament. Now let's go the A team that wants to show up next summer.
All right.
We're about to go over what that A team should look like.
So let's do that now. So we're going to construct a 12-man roster, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to start with who from this current FIBA roster we think is the safest bet or bets to make the next team, or do you want to go position by position on the next team, or do you want to go order of importance on the next team?
You tell me. You're putting the roster together. So if you want to start with like your starting five, then
let's do this. Let's do this FIBA roster. We should I'm going to pull it up right now. Unless you have it right in front of you.
I have it right in front of me.
So go through. So let's say who are the 12 on this roster?
Walker Kessler, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. Those are the five guys that started against Canada today. Then Bobby Portis, Tyrese Halliburton, Paolo Banchero, Jaren Jackson Jr., Austin Reeves, Brandon Ingram, Cam Johnson are your 7 reserves.
I think there are. I mean, in my mind, they'd be locks. Well, first of all, again, I've become just really good at getting a lot of credit for parroting Benji Ridholtz. Benji tweeted during the Italy game that he thinks of everybody on this current roster, the most important person to put on the Olympic team is Mikal Bridges, and I completely agree. And I have a very long, far too long newsletter coming either Monday or Tuesday about why I think that is. But in short, like, Mikal Bridges, defense, shooting, a little bit of creation. Like, there's no world where you don't need that guy on the Olympic roster. So I kind of want to say he's a lock to be on it. And the other guy, I have to think, I have to think he's going to want it. I have to think they're going to want him on it. Is Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, was it a perfect tournament for him? No. Could have passed a little bit more. Could have been locked in defensively, certainly a little bit more. He had some great defensive moments. Don't get me wrong. He also had some defensive moments which were less great. Could have rebounded a little bit better, but he established himself as the guy, obviously, without question on this roster. Part of me thinks, because it was for anybody who may have missed, this was reported a few weeks ago. They initially toyed around with the idea of having Anthony Edwards come off the bench. And I think that was initially pitched to him by Steve Kerr as like, it's the Dwayne Wade rule. And for what it's worth, there's actually a long history of guys being the six men on Team USA, either leading them in scoring, like Dwayne Wade did on, I think it was 2008 team. Charles Barkley led the original Dream Team in scoring. He only started half the games. Or like being right there in terms of the scoring leaders. Melo, one of the years that he was on it, came off the bench and was second, I think, in scoring to Kevin Durant. So like, it's not crazy that you put your first or your second, potentially your best scorer off the bench. But I think Anthony Edwards' response to that is like, yeah, there's no Kobe Bryant ahead of me here, which is the guy that Dwayne Wade came off the bench to be behind. There's not going to be necessarily a Kobe Bryant in Anthony Edwards starting shooting guard spot on the Olympic team, but there might be someone who's better than him. We'll get to that in a bit. I wouldn't be shocked if Anthony Edwards is the sixth man on the Olympic team. So, and maybe winds up leading them in scoring. Those are the two that I think have the best chance, and I would argue are borderline locks. I think there are maybe another guy or two that I would say are in contention to be on the roster, but just let's stop here. What do you think of those two?
Solid top two. Solid. Let me rephrase that. Solid first two, specifically from this crop of players. I don't think this is your best top two. That should go without saying, but I agree with your analysis of Mikal Bridges and what he will bring to Team USA and how important that is. And the biggest takeaway I have from Team USA on a positive note is Anthony Edwards and his ability to take over games. It's sometimes good and bad, but some of the times that it was very good, how much of a standout superstar he could potentially be one day.
And both two-way players. Again, Edwards' defense was not perfect in this tournament, but you saw when he has all defense potential. He and if he locks in on that, and maybe if there's less scoring responsibility on him and he could focus more on that defense, that would make it, even more likely. Love my wife. She's brought me some water because she's the best wife ever.
Hi, Dolores.
She just closed the door behind. I'll tell you said hi later. He didn't end up making a big impact, I think, in either the semis or the bronze medal game. I wonder if Paolo Banchero had a big second year in the league, would he be in consideration? I don't think so, but he's a guy that I'm at least looking at. And then the only other guys that I think, not both of them, I don't think both of them, but one of Tyrese Halliburton, or you're going to think I'm crazy here, or Austin Reeves. I think Austin Reeves, for as much as a lot of people's takeaways, especially people who hate the Lakers, will be that he got bodied, repeatedly as this tournament went on, and, too small and this and that. That dude took and made some massive shots throughout this entire tournament. And he's another guy, kind of like Mikal, obviously not the defender that Mikal is. Probably not even the shooter that Mikal is. Although I know he has some very good shooting on his brief NBA resume. That like you could plop him in and he could be the fifth man with any other four guys and he could acclimate himself. Maybe as like Team USA's 12th man. I don't know. Halliburton, I think it depends on the roster construction around him, because what I don't think they're going to do is I don't think they're going to put too many guys. That's why I said either Reeves or Halliburton. So you're like, well, why is it an either or? They don't play the same position. I don't think they're going to put too many guys on this next roster who are exploitable defensively. And I think, again, Halliburton had some nice defensive moments. I also think he's someone that you could target. Wouldn't be shocked if he's the backup point guard on the team. That wouldn't shock me.
So where are you going with Jalen Brunson on this?
I got to tell you, I don't see a world where he's on it.
So Captain America is not gonna.
So what is Jalen Brunson's strength? Jalen Brunson's strength is isolation basketball. He can get you buckets. There is no universe where, given who is going to throw their hat in the ring for Paris, and it's already been reported, a lot of big time players want to go to this Olympics. There is no world where he will be one of the, let's say, top 4 isolation or top 5 isolation guys on this next roster. So if you're not counting on him for his isolation abilities, there are better passers out there, including Halliburton, and there are certainly better defenders out there. So if you are building a roster based on skill sets, I know he was the de facto captain. I know they dubbed him the leader early on. Maybe they put him on again, not necessarily as someone they're going to count on in the rotation. Maybe they just put him on the roster because they value the continuity, they value the leadership, they value the locker room presence, all that stuff. At the same time, will they need that? Because they're going to have guys on this roster who have been in other Olympics. So is Jalen Brunson's leadership going to be as vital? I got to tell you, I'm not sure.
So let's go to the rest of the roster that you think. Now, all we have are Bridges and Anthony Edwards.
And I think there's a decent chance that those are the only 2. The rest of the roster, we talked about Halliburton. I mentioned Banchero. Josh Hart, I don't think he'll be on it. Cam Johnson was kind of out of the rotation by the time this thing ended. I don't think he'll be on it. Even though I do think he's like the sort of player archetype that the Olympic team needs. I don't know. I just, quite frankly, don't know if he was up to the task for this. Jaren Jackson Jr. is an interesting one, and that kind of is a good transition to looking at players who are not on this roster, because we'll start at the center position because I think that's where we need to start. Brandon Ingram, not sure how he makes it after the tournament that he had, and then Walker Kessler and Bobby Portis. I just don't think either of them either.
I agree. So who are you thinking? Who are you putting on?
So let's start at center. And I think there's there's a good argument that for as much as the headliners for the Olympic team will be the wing scorers, I think the most important positions are the center and point guard, because those are in different ways. Those are the bookends of your defense. Those are the spots that other teams will look to exploit. And at center, they're your backstop. I think it's going to be Bam again. So Bam was on the 2020 team. I think he's going to be on the team again. I think he, and the only other one who I would say might be the first call ahead of Bam would be Anthony Davis. And just given Anthony Davis's injury history and the fact that he spends seemingly every summer, recovering, I just don't see that. Do you? And then the other guy is Draymond Green. What are your thoughts on that?
I wrote Bam and Draymond down. I also wrote AD down and crossed him out. The only other, I don't know if he's ever shown interest in Team USA or if Team USA has ever shown interest in him, but the only other option I thought of was Brook Lopez.
So he was actually on a FIBA team I think the last FIBA team that lost, and he was not good. He was not good. Yeah, it didn't work out well. I mean, the elephant in the room is Joel Embiid, and it's the elephant in the room for a few reasons, because one, nobody knows if Joel Embiid wants to play in the Olympics. Two, again, similar to Anthony Davis, is Joel Embiid going to be spending the summer recovering from some injury? But also, if Team USA has a chance to get him and they find out that Joel Embiid wants to be part of Team USA, and then if he doesn't get there through chicanery, he could go play for Team France, which again, it's not known at this point. Where it seems like the pathway for him playing for both the U.S. and France is open, and it's kind of up to him what he wants. So that's kind of the wild card that, like, man, if Joel Embiid's on this team, like Joel Embiid, obviously ever since he's been in the league, has been the go-to scorer on every roster he's been on. Would they want him on as the go-to scorer on this team? Like, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I wonder what in it, like, Team USA secretly wants. I don't know.
Let's, for argument's sake, just put Bam, Draymond Green, and Jaren Jackson Jr. on the roster. Jackson's your backup center.
Well, your third string center.
Who's your backup center?
Draymond.
But he's not going to be on the team. Like he's like a Josh Hart Swiss Army knife, where like he's on the team as a forward, but he can play center. Unless you think they wouldn't take a second center,
no, I think they would take a third center. I think it would be I think both of those guys will get called with the intention that they will split the minutes at center. That is what I think the plan will be. And then I think there will be, because it's only 5 fouls, right, in international play, because you're definitely going to need a third center. Maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. gets that call to be the third center. But I think it's Draymond. I think if we're creating the roster right now in our ideal world, it's Bam and Dre at the center positions.
I've got all three, just for argument's sake.
Okay, and then
we're up to 5 players on the team.
We're up to 5 players, definitely, with a couple of maybes from this roster. Okay. So I guess the biggest question, and I'm fairly certain if he's going to be on the Olympic team, he will, unless is Kevin Durant already the leading scorer in like Team USA history, or is that Melo?
That's Carmelo Anthony.
Okay. Well, Durant will pass him if he's on this next team. Because
I don't think he will be.
You don't? Interesting. Why? Because of age? Because of injury concerns?
The man misses like 60% of basketball seasons as is. I don't think he's going to spend an off season. Now, it also could depend how deep of a run Phoenix makes. You know, if they're in the finals, then I think it's a 0% chance. If they get bounced in the second round, like Brooklyn did when Kevin Durant went to play with Team USA last time, then maybe he's like, yeah, I'm in for the Olympics this summer.
For what it's worth, Kevin Durant has a chance to establish himself as I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, the greatest Olympic basketball player of all time. He has been on the last 3 Team USAs in the Olympics. He has led each of those 3 teams in scoring, and they've won the gold medal every time. So if he goes and is now on a 4th team and leads them in scoring for a 4th time and wins a 4th gold medal, there's just no debate as to who the greatest Olympic player ever is. Do you want to put Durant in a side category for now?
For now, because
okay.
Can we put some of courses on real quick?
Sure. So
Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, they're on Team USA.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. The biggest question for me is if Durant says yes, which I think there's a chance he does, and Tatum and Booker are both on it. I think you're right. Tatum and Booker are the 2 easy guarantees. Because I think if Booker's on it, I think Booker's going to. So I'm looking at it as Booker or Edwards will be the starting shooting guard. And then you have the other 2 wing positions. Will they go small and have both Booker and Edwards start alongside? And does that decision, will that be based on whether Durant plays or not? I could see them going in any number of directions for the 2, the 3, and the 4 positions between Booker, Edwards, Tatum, Durant, and Mikal Bridges. I think Mikal Bridges will be absolutely be in consideration to start for this next team because he doesn't need the ball. And he will be vital on both ends with his shooting and his defense.
This is with Durant on the roster?
I absolutely. And then this was my pitch. Let's say Durant's on the roster and you have Booker or Edwards as a starting 2. You pitch it to, I guess, Tatum in this case, and maybe Tatum, you pitch it to Tatum. Now it's your turn to be Dwayne Wade. And you're going to come off the bench and you're going to do what Dwayne Wade did, what Carmelo Anthony did, what Charles Barkley did. And there's going to be an argument when we're all said and done that you were maybe one of the best 2 or 3 players on this team, even though you came off the bench.
I think Jason Tatum's starting for Team USA if he's here. Now, it could change in closing lineups, but I think Jason Tatum is starting if he's on Team USA. So
to me, and now we're going to get to the point guard position, because to me, if Booker's on the team and Edwards is on the team and Tatum's on the team and Durant's on the team, I think, and again, I'm borrowing from our text conversation with Benji and Fred the other day, is there a chance that Devin Booker becomes the starting point guard on the team. And I would not rule that out, considering he's going to be the starting point guard for Phoenix this year. And he's shown the ability to play point guard in the NBA, certainly.
So there's a name we haven't said yet that...
You want to get to him now, Drew Holiday?
So Donovan Mitchell's from America, right?
So this is the fascinating thing to me.
That was my thought. If the Team USA A team is Booker as your point guard, because like you said, he's playing point guard for Phoenix this year.
If he plays point guard.
Okay.
On Team USA.
I'm projecting that Devin Booker's your point guard. Then either Donovan Mitchell or Anthony Edwards at the 2. Jason Tatum with Bridges as your backup. Kevin Durant with Draymond Green as your backup.
I still don't think Draymond's playing 4, but keep going.
Bam Adebayo with Jaren Jackson Jr. as your backup. And then pick 2 other Americans. Like, there's your 12 is my take on this. That's Team USA's A team, and I think they would win the gold.
To me, if Devin Booker is a starting point guard, that means you're going to have Anthony Edwards. The only reason Devin Booker is going to be the starting point guard is if Anthony Edwards, if they really feel like that he should be the starting 2. So now you have 2 shot creators. Booker could handle himself on defense. He's a big body. He's not going to get exploited in the way that we just saw Reeves and Brunson get exploited, and Halliburton a little bit. But that's still, you got Booker's an offensive creator. Edwards, offensive creator. If you have Durant as your starting 4, obviously he's your go-to. Do you really need Tatum at the 3 as a 4th creator in that starting lineup? To me, Booker as the starting point guard is even more justification for starting Mikal Bridges and bringing Tatum off the bench. The alternative, I think, is if either Booker, and this is, if I had to bet on what would be the most likely thing, this is what I would bet on right now. Booker or Edwards is your starting 2 guard. Tatum starts at the 3 as your kind of 3rd, but he kind of inherits the quote unquote Carmelo Anthony role. Kevin Durant's at the 4. This is if Durant wants to play. And then Drew Holiday is the starting point guard. But either way, I think you're getting either Drew Holiday or Mikal Bridges in your starting lineup for this next team with Bam as the starting center. Now, the monkey wrench is if Durant says he doesn't want to play, then it makes things a little bit easier because then you could start Booker, Edwards, Tatum, and then probably I think Mikal would be your... As for Mitchell, I mean, honestly, I think the best path to him getting on is if Durant says he doesn't want to go, because then you could probably use another, I keep going back to this term, another creator. But like, what is Donovan Mitchell? He's kind of like Jalen Brunson. He's a small guard, probably going to get targeted on defense. Not the best. He's a good passer, but he's not, that's not what he's out there for. He's out there to score. And maybe they need him, but I think he's like the 5th or 6th call, not the 3rd or 4th call.
So you think their reaction to this FIBA tournament is like, we don't need you, Donovan Mitchell?
I think the reaction is going to be Drew Holiday if he's not the first call, he's going to be one of the first calls. And again, Drew Holiday, not only was he on the 2020 team, but you can make an argument that the fate of the 2020 team started to turn around when Drew Holiday got off the plane from just winning the NBA Finals. And Chris Middleton also, to his credit, but like Drew Holiday was the guy really. I mean, Chris Middleton scored 35 points in the last Olympics. Drew Holiday scored 71. He led the team in assists. He had 23 assists. He led the team in steals. He had 10 steals. He was everything they needed and then some.
So then he's your point guard. So
I think they want him to be the starting point guard. I think they'll want that. So assuming he's in.
So let's put him in instead of Mitchell.
Well, no, maybe Mitchell still gets on the team. So Drew Holiday, let's go with Devin Booker as a starting 2. Let's go with Tatum as a starting 3. Durant as the starting 4.
Mm-hmm.
Bam as the starting 5. Backups. So now it gets interesting. Let's say, so Drew Holiday is your starting point guard, right?
Mm-hmm. Jalen Brunson.
I think it's Halliburton. I bet you it would be Halliburton over Brunson as the backup point guard because, again, with Drew Holiday on the team, you have your defensive first point guard if you need it. I think it's not an accident that the Team USA played very well anytime the backups came on the floor. I do think that was very real, and I think Halliburton was a big part of that. I think he acclimated himself pretty well. I think other than Edwards and honestly, maybe after Edwards, the guy who's going to come out of this looking the best, it might be Halliburton. And I know he didn't shoot very well today, or he had an okay game in the loss to Serbia.
Look, I know Halliburton had his moments. I think Halliburton's going to come out of this looking as exposed on defense at times as Austin Reeves and Jalen Brunson. I know he got the nod in crunch time over Brunson. Kerr seemed to just kind of ride the hot hand in those situations where there was a crunch time to ride someone. And I think going into this upcoming tournament, who knows what the Olympics are going to look like next year. I'm just going to give the nod to Captain America that the leadership and whatever he provided to this team. Well, hold on. John's off. What happened?
Nothing. My daughter found something. Okay. Keep going. Sorry.
No, I think you pick Halliburton, I'll pick Brunson. That's fine.
Okay. I think it's going to be Halliburton. I'm not saying what I'd want. I'm just saying I think what they'll do. And I do think there is justification for it. So then Halliburton would be my backup point guard, what I assume they're going to do. Who was I starting? I was starting Booker. So Anthony Edwards, backup shooting guard.
Mm-hmm.
Mikal Bridges, backup 3. I'm going to skip the backup 4 for a moment. Go to Draymond as the backup 5.
Man,
I actually don't think they're going to. So here's the interesting part. So realistically, I could see this being a 9-man rotation and Tatum is your de facto backup 4. And you're just going to play a lot with, whether it's Edwards and Booker together at the 2-3 or maybe Mikal, Booker, Edwards, whatever, like some kind, like you could get away with a 9-man rotation. I do think that they are going to want one more guy with size who is not a center, which is tricky because how many stretch 4s or like shooting 4s, good quality shooting 4s are there in the league who could also switch on defense and like not get exploited? And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh shit, Jeremy Grant was on the 2020 team, and like that's how a guy like Jeremy Grant, or if you want to go 4 years before that, how a guy like Harrison Barnes gets on the Olympic team, because there aren't that many of these sorts of guys out there. And unless I'm missing someone, I don't know. There's no obvious. That's why they put Cam Johnson on this team. A guy, now he's not. Well, I mean, he's kind of the same physical build as Jeremy Grant. Now that I think about it, but like, here you want to go. You want to really fall off your chair? Is there an argument for Julius Randle?
I was thinking it. No, there isn't.
Yeah, probably
Julius Randle.
No, but I'd say that not really facetiously. I mean, he's a guy who could hit a 3. Like if you ask that dude to lock in defensively for like 10, 15 minutes a game, shoot a corner 3 when he's open and maybe use his physicality to get the other team in foul trouble for once. How about that as a novel concept?
This is Randle we're talking about, or?
Yeah, Randle.
I don't think Julius Randle's going. Yes,
I don't think listen,
you're right. Fine.
To be clear, I don't think it's going to happen. But just like
I'm not entertaining the Julius Randle around in an environment where you need to keep your cool, because like the referees will give you a warning and then you're gone. I'm not putting Julius Randle in that situation.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to leave it blank for now because I got to get out of here because my youngest daughter is her first
soccer. I think we have 11 so far. If you're putting Jaren Jackson as your third center, as your 11th man. So we need a 12th man. I think.
Wait, hold on. Did I miss someone? How did we get to 11? I just said 9.
You skipped your backup 4. That's right. So yeah. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 10.
So backup 4, TBD, Jaren Jackson Jr. as the 12th guy. And then they do usually put one ceremonial young guy. Maybe that's Ben Caro. Maybe Ben Caro is the backup 4 that we're talking about here.
Oh, maybe he takes a leap and I don't know.
He has the talent.
He does, but he's also like going to be 20 next summer.
And then maybe Reeves is your 12th man.
that was my thought too. You made the case for Austin Reeves.
So I think that's the roster. Again, I think Durant is the guy I think everybody should be looking for. Is he going to play or not? If Durant doesn't, I think maybe that is, like I said, how you get Donovan Mitchell on the team. And then Drew Holiday. If Drew Holiday doesn't play, and one last thing very quickly, because I really do have to go. Guy we haven't mentioned, who was on the 2020 team and certainly scored a fair number of points for that team. Not that many, but he did okay. Is Damian Lillard. Now Damian Lillard's getting up there in age. I don't know if he's going to want to put his body through that next summer. I would imagine not. I'm not even sure that they want him necessarily. I think.
Do you remember him in those Olympics?
I mean, barely. Why?
You want to talk about other teams hunting him?
Oh yeah, exactly. That's my point.
So that's where I think
But he's also Damian Lillard, you know?
He's going to be 35-year-old Damian Lillard.
I know. I just wanted to mention him lest anybody be like, how could you not mention Damian Lillard? Like, I know Damian Lillard was on the team. I just don't think he's going to be on this next team.
So maybe he's the de facto, like we did this whole thing about Brunson and Halliburton.
Oh, I don't.
If Dame wants to play, then he's there instead of
Dame's coming on the team. He's coming on to be Dame Lillard. I think that would be a situation where there would be an understanding. Like, look, man, you ain't going to be one of the main, guys on this thing.
And then if Mitchell wants to play, then Austin Reeves is gone, and we have enough talent that they're not losing that tournament.
Well, we will find out in a year. Okay. On that note, I got to run. Andrew Claudio, thanks for hopping on here and doing this. Anything we forget before we go?
No, go to your daughter's soccer game.
We'll be back with more fun and games later this week. Until then, everybody have a good one. Take care.